Today on Rebel Report, we analyze the huge win the Runnin Rebels secured on Monday evening.
And then we will go to the Josh Herron and Diego Escobar to give us a breakdown on the silver and black, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Also, we have Lady Rebels point guard Essence Booker in studio to talk about each key piece the team holds this season for a successful winning season. Welcome to Rebel Report. I'm Jade Thomas.
And I'm Dominic Lavoie. Thank you for joining us.
And let's start with some basketball. Our Runnin Rebels put on a defensive display earlier this week, taking down nationally ranked number 21, the Dayton Flyers. Down 10 at half, the Rebels came back, holding Dayton to 25% from the field, leaving them scoreless for the last 6+ minutes of the game. Also, they had clutch offensive rebounds, deflecting passes. They were diving on the floor for loose balls. The Rebels hustled all 94 feet of the court. E.J. Harkless and Keyshawn Gilbert led the Rebels in scoring. Keyshawn with 16 off of three-point bombs and tough lays at the rim. And E.J. with 24 coming from all over the court. Defense still remained key for the Rebels, causing the Flyers to turn over the ball 24 times and scoring 27 off of their turnovers. Coach Kruger talked about the importance of defense for his Rebel team this season.
These guys in the half court, they can really guard, and they get after it. So, a lot of forcing 24 turnovers, I think, is, I don't think we even could have dreamed to do that. But guys went out and did it, and again, just hung their hat on the defensive end. Holding Dayton to a low field goal percentage in the second half, I think it was just a great example and something we can kind of go back to and build from, where they rallied together at halftime. They adjusted and they swung back when we got down. And so I think a win like that's great, but with a new group, we've got to wake up tomorrow, watch the film, and get right back after it.
I have seen a lot of basketball in my years, and that was one of the most entertaining and fun games I've ever watched.
Most definitely. It was a really big defensive battle. It was really low scoring. Coach Kruger, he did talk about the defense in that game. And one thing that really stood out to me, especially during this season, that I believe really led to this win, is the combination between the old guard from last season and the newer recruits coming in and really gelling together. Keyshawn Gilbert, he's finally dropping double digits in games and in points, and he's been hitting threes. He was a key factor in that game. And there's other players like E.J. Harkless and all of the newer recruits like Luis Rodriguez as well coming in and really gelling together and building a more cohesive unit.
Yeah, Lou, Keyshawn, and EJ, that is going to be a deadly trio this season. It was just really fun to see them diving on the floor for every loose ball and just being really gritty out there. It was really fun to see. Definitely
a lot of fun basketball there at the Thomas & Mack Center. But next up, we're going to go next door to the Cox Pavilion for the Lady Rebels as they took on the Utah Valley Wolverines. We'll go to Lady Rebels reporter Jared Feldman for more.
The Lady Rebels won in dominant fashion 82-38 against Utah Valley this Wednesday. Justice Etheridge set the tone for the Lady Rebels defense and was a key contributor on both ends of the court, filling the stat sheet with 6 points, 7 steals, 7 assists, and 8 rebounds.
Just a total stat sheet stuffer today, and that's just what Justice does. She kind of rises to the occasion, and whatever the team needs, she finds a way to do it. She really set the tone early in the game. Her and Essence competed diving for a loose ball, and then she got another one, and after that it was our team had the momentum.
The Lady Rebels bench has been huge for them so far this season, with Kiera Jackson and Alyssa Brown providing huge sparks for the Lady Rebels. Alyssa Brown took a big step this season in an increased role. She went from averaging 2 points and 2 rebounds per game to 13 points per game and 5 rebounds. Kiera Jackson has continued to produce big off the bench and picked up from where she left off last season. We go to Coach Lindy La Rocque to tell us more about this duo off the bench.
AB and Kiera are just, they're getting better each and every game. Obviously, Kiera played some good minutes last year, but now she's really ready and stepping into that and not being timid once she gets out there. And then AB, she didn't play a ton last year, so sometimes she's still getting some game experience, but man, she hasn't needed much from her shot making to just rebounding and contributing in different ways.
The Lady Rebels return to the court on Sunday, November 20th at 2 p.m. against the Cal State Bakersfield Roadrunners. To talk more Lady Rebels, we're joined by a Lady Rebel herself. Essence Booker, senior point guard for the Lady Rebels, is in studio.
Thanks, Jared. And yes, we do have Essence today. And Jared and Coach mentioned about AB and Key, how they have stepped into bigger roles. How cool has it been to experience that as a leader on the team, to see them play into those roles?
Just with both of them being sophomores this year and young, they act like upperclassmen. I mean, it's like they're experienced. They show the freshmen coming in right now the ropes. And, I mean, it's not new to them. So, I mean, it's great.
And they also touched on Justice and her defense. So obviously scoring points is very important in basketball, but having Justice in that defensive role and having that being her identity, how important, how impactful is that going to be down the line?
I mean, like Lindy mentioned, she sets the tone for us, especially defensively. I feel like Centennial High School gets a lot of credit for that. I mean, you went there. Just coming in and just being able to play her role and do whatever the team needs. And I feel like Justice does that.
Yeah, and speaking more on KJ, Key, so she usually comes in for you, subs for you, gives you a break as a point guard position. How vital is that she comes in and not only produces, but she extends leads and she's really producing out there?
Well, me coming off the court as a point guard, I feel like she fills that void easily. She doesn't act like a sophomore. She's a returning sophomore, but she doesn't act like a sophomore. She acts like an upperclassman point guard, a leader, and she came back with a lot of confidence, and we need that this year.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. We are excited to see what the Lady Rebels and Essence Booker can do this season. Now, staying on UNLV but changing sports, the Chuck Wagon has graduated, but his legacy lives on. And on this episode of Runnin Rebels, we talked to former UNLV running back and current UNLV rushing yards leader, Charles Williams, or Chuck the Wagon, to reflect on his impact football had on him, as well as his plans for the future. This episode is dropping on Saturday, so make sure to look out for that. We are back here at our favorite place, Mr. Fry's Man, right by UNLV. It is episode 5, and we have
Charles Williams.
And today we are going to see what is Charles rubbing on.
Come on. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hey, she beat me to I'm gonna try the barbecue bacon ranch chicken. Your face, like, look at that. She is the star of the show.
And then dance. We've seen you on the sidelines for UNLV football this year, and you're very active on Twitter, supporting the team and your past teammates. How important it is for you to keep in touch with your UNLV side and teammates?
Well, it was good, like just watching like them practice and everything. You get that coaching type vibe too. Like talking to Courtney, talking to Aiden, even like Spencer, Sammy Green, just talking to them, and then being able to get on people like Doug and Kyle and not having to worry about it biting you in the butt because you don't play with them no more. So when I get to practice, I can mess with them all I want now.
True.
Just the biggest thing though, when you get out there, it's always about like supporting them and making sure like they understand no matter what, one play doesn't define you and one game doesn't define you. So just keep pushing forward.
I like that. What does it mean to be a Rebel?
Long nights, working in those dark hours where people not watching, waking up early when most people are asleep.
Okay.
I feel like the biggest thing about being a Rebel though is people always gonna count you out, make you the underdog. So you might as well put that in the back of your head that nobody respects you. And when you go out there, you fighting for the people next to you and the name on the back and the name on the front. Sounds very cliche right now, but that's the honest truth. But like, when you think of Las Vegas, you think of the Strip. But being a Rebel is like, this part of like, Las Vegas where it's just normal people trying to, work a 9 to 5. Some people trying to just make ends meet. And I feel like being a Rebel is like just taking care of the people that support us and making them happy by going out there and trying to win as many games as possible because, they get up every morning and, you know, they got to do what they got to do to, you know, provide. So the best we can do is give them a show and go out there and win. So I feel like those dudes over there across the street, they're going to make sure that you guys are happy and take care of this community. And they're trying to make, you know, big things happen. And it's like that Dreams and Nightmares song. That's the type of vibe it is. It's just like the come-up song. That's how it feels to be a Rebel.
Mic drop.
I'm not gonna lie. So when that camera cut off, I'm munching. That's it.
And the Vegas sports market continues to grow with another sports team adding to its hat in the ring. The Vegas Vipers and other XFL teams hosted their draft here in Las Vegas. And I have the scoop on what happened at this event. Before the actual day one of the XFL draft, the quarterback selection was first. Here's how the Vegas Vipers are looking, as well as how their quarterbacks are feeling.
It's a tough business, you know. Like you don't get too many opportunities, and when you do, you gotta capitalize off of them. So, and even if you do, like it might just be a window for it. You know what I mean? So, definitely something I've been praying for and really hoping for. So, just glad for it.
I like guys that are smart, that are passionate about the game, guys that want to be here. There's a lot of guys that they're very athletic, very talented, but maybe aren't here for the right intentions or aren't, you know, don't put in the work that they should. So I want guys that wants to work and wants to be out there because I'm going to push the guys. I'm going to push them to the limit. And again, I think I hope we get a good team together so we can put on a good product.
And with the 5th pick in the first round, the Vegas Vipers selected their first addition to Perez's new ideal team.
The 5th selection of the skill position in the XFL draft, the Las Vegas Vipers select
Martavis Bryant, wide receiver, Clemson.
It was a very, very nice event, and you could feel the energy in the arena. And I even spoke with the owners, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for this season? And without hesitation, he said 112, and his co-owner, Danny, backed him up on that answer. So.
And the UNLV Skating Rebels, they finished up their NCAA games this season, and the Rebels, they didn't manage to get a win, but they weren't too far off a couple times. We're going to start in October. They began play in Denver against the Denver Pioneers, the defending national champions in the NCAA Division I. And the Rebels, they did lose that preseason game 10-0 with Zach Wixon and Vince Benedetto splitting time between the pipes. That game was a bit of a measuring stick for one of the premier ACHA programs in the nation against the national champions in the NCAA. But the Skating Rebels, they moved on up to Alaska to play the University of Alaska Anchorage Seawolves. The Seawolves are getting their program upstarted again after having a few years off. And the Skating Rebels, they hit the ice in Anchorage, but that first game they lost 7-0 with Wixon and Landon Pavlizin this time, splitting time in between the pipes. Then the next night, the Skating Rebels nearly took down the Seawolves, falling just short 2-1. And the UNLV and UAA, they finally faced off in Las Vegas at the Dollar Loan Center to round out UNLV's NCAA schedule for this season. And UNLV was looking for a win in front of their home crowd.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the fact that we're all super excited, I think we know what we're capable of, and that's finding a win against this team. You know, we gave them a really good shot up in their place, and that was so much fun. What a great trip that was to Alaska. Thank you to them for having us, but now they're here, and I think this team is poised to win, not just play our first NCAA Division I game, but to win one too.
The Skating Rebels, they opened up play in this one, falling behind early. Max Helgeson scored 19 seconds into this game to put the Seawolves up 1-0. UNLV ended up trailing for the majority of that contest until late in the third period, where Alec Johnson rifled a one-timer home from the high slot to tie the game. But the Seawolves came back the other way. Shortly thereafter, Carter Belitsky ripped a one-timer of his own home past Landon Pavlizin to win the game for the Seawolves.
They kind of weathered the storm, which was good to see. They were positive for most of the game. Obviously, losing like that kind of stings, and to have a little breakdown like that. But you're 2 plays away, you know, like the first 20 seconds of the game. We make them turn over, and then at the end of the game, it's a mental mistake. And a team like that, you just can't do that.
And the Skating Rebels, they continue their bid for a national title following these tune-up games. And Jade, This team, they had a huge signing class over the offseason. They had a bunch of different players, a lot of NCAA transfers like Landon Pallazin. He came in and kind of stepped up to be a nice complement to Zach Wixon, who was one of the premier goaltenders in the nation last year.
Yeah, it was. I actually got to catch the game yesterday, and it was really nice. I got to speak with freshman Jackson White before, and just, talking to him, picking his brain about how is it, playing in this hockey, and he just spoke very highly of the guys, especially of Flandy and Azaro, who are both competing within the team for most goals scored, and although it was an unfortunate outcome yesterday, I think that they have a good group, and they'll pick up their chemistry as the season goes on.
Definitely, and I mean, it's against an NCAA team. They're going to skate a lot better, and they're going to play a lot better. But for UNLV to only lose, 10-0 against the national champions, that's kind of expected. That's like going up against Alabama in college football, or losing 3-1 or 7-0 or 2-1, what have you, against the Seawolves. It's a really good measuring stick for a program that wants to go Division I and wants to be one of the premier Division I programs out on the West Coast. But in Las Vegas, there's other action going on, but it's not so good. The Las Vegas Raiders are in the middle of a long losing slump as they start the second half of their 2022 NFL season, and this Week 10 matchup was no exception.
And here to tell us about the game is Diego Escobar and Josh Herron. Guys, take it away.
Thanks, guys. The theme of the Raiders 2022 season, I think we all can agree on, is comeback. Coming into the Colts game, the Raiders have lost 5 of their last 6 games within 1 score. Isn't that right, Josh?
That's right, Diego. Could this be the game where the Raiders finally find their way, or could they be still in that losing streak? Let's get straight to the highlights. Well, the Raiders had a slow start coming into the first half, allowing 13 points total to the Colts, and their only touchdown came first half late in the second quarter. And here's Foster Moreau completing a pass into the end zone, giving the Raiders the first score of the game. And now we skip late in the third quarter. Here's Jonathan Taylor. He could go all the way. A 66-yard touchdown run. And he just continues to make plays happen for the Colts. Then that brings the Colts back into the lead on a 66-yard touchdown. And now, let's get to the fourth quarter. And here's Carr from shotgun. He's looking to throw. He steps up. And here's Devontae Adams. You see, he's been an elite in Green Bay. He's an elite here in Vegas. He gets a touchdown, bringing the Raiders up to the lead again, 20-19 to score. Colts would find their answer with Paris Campbell. But now, this play you want to see here in the final minutes. Carr throwing to Devontae Adams. He got it. He got it incomplete. It couldn't come up with an elite comeback. And so the Colts take the win for the final score of 25-20. And after the game, I asked the Raiders head coach, Josh McDaniels, about their injured players and how their absences impacted their performance on Sunday. Take a look.
Hey, Josh here. Can you address the issues with the inactive players and their impact with how the Raiders performed this week?
So you're talking about our inactives? Yep. Yeah. There's some things there that are internal, and we always try to do what's best for the team, but, I know we had some guys that were inactive this week, and hopefully that would change next week.
Next Sunday, the Raiders are heading to Denver, Mile High, to face the Denver Broncos for their second matchup of the season. Diego, what keys do you got for Sunday?
The 3 keys for this game, Josh, are very simple, especially to beat a team like the Broncos. Coming out of the last week's game with another loss, the Raiders are looking to get back in the win column. With this game against the Broncos being a divisional rivalry game, both teams will do their best to fight for a win. That being said, here are the 3 keys that the Raiders need to succeed. Key number 1, utilize the run game. The Raiders have found success running the ball, and they found that way of winning against the Broncos the first time. If the Raiders can replicate what they did against the Broncos in their first meeting this year, the Broncos won't be able to stop it. Key number 2, run defense. As you can see, this one seems to be a running theme for this team. The Raiders need to be able to contain Russell Wilson and their run game. And because one of the Raiders' biggest weaknesses is the run game, hopefully the new acquisition of defensive tackle Jerry Tiller from the Chargers can help the team with this problem. And the third and final key is to finish. The Raiders haven't had a really bad problem with scoring when they want. As we have seen throughout the season, they can do it at will. However, when it comes to the second half of games, the Raiders have had a hard time finishing what they started. So if they can just keep going, keep firing on offense, and stop the Broncos' attack on defense, the Raiders will be able to jump back into the win column. Back to you, Dom and Jade at the desk.
Thank you, Diego and Josh. Now we're going to toss it over to our discussion panel to talk about sports betting. What better city to do it in?
Thanks, Jade. Now, I know you haven't seen a betting segment on the show in quite a few weeks, but we're back and better than ever, and ooh, do we got a good one. I'm here with the right people today to get your betting lines just in time. I'm Justin Brooks here with my colleagues Diego and Sebastian. Let's get right into this, gentlemen.
Sounds like an idea.
So first thing I want to talk about any trends that you guys have seen in the industry that might have worked for you personally or that you've just seen in general.
Want to take it?
So when it comes to betting, we always see like spreads, especially in the NFL, like how like a really good team will always have like a plus like 7.5, plus like 3.5. But I typically tend to stay away from like bets that are like in the double digits. Like in the NFL, it's just so much harder to achieve a blowout, especially with people like fighting for like their careers. Like a good example would be like Houston. They may not be the best team in the NFL, but they're always scrappy. They're always keeping it close. Like
100%.
even though like they've been like multiple times double-digit underdogs, they're always like fighting, try to keep that score close for them.
See, with me, when it comes to that, that's why I don't do betting on over-unders or by point spreads. For me, it's always just pick the winner or pick the loser and just run with it, because everything can change so fast in a heartbeat. NFL games can change in the matter of 10 seconds. We've seen it. It happens. So if you give me the underdog that I know can overtake the team, it gives me a bigger payout. I love it. If I just think one team's going to blow another one out the water, okay, cool. Give me my money. That's usually how I bet.
You also got to stay away from those halves, like 7.5, like you said, or 3.5. Because if they win by a touchdown, doesn't cover. They win by a field goal, doesn't cover.
Those half points are very scary because I don't know how, but the bookies always know they are always within the half point, like 90% of the time it feels.
100%.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: I work for the NFL. I do not bet, but a good trend that I have seen, though, is NBA overs. We have a lot of teams that have abnormally crazy high scoring games, especially with young teams that like to get out and transition. Teams like the Hawks, the Timberwolves, the Grizzlies, fast scoring, fast break points.
Yeah.
Another one too. I want you guys to answer this. All right. There's been 31 primetime NFL games. Out of 31, how many would you think have hit the under? Out of 31 games.
31 primetime games?
How many have hit the under?
I would say 4.
Give me about 15.
15? Well, the under has hit 19 out of the 31 times.
Wow.
And being the fact that the Broncos are probably playing half of them, so that doesn't help it either.
Yeah.
But that under is hit. Another one that I would want to give advice to people out there is to stay away from UFC lines. All right, a close favorite just has the same amount of chance of getting knocked out as a heavy favorite. All right, because we had guys like Usman and Leon Edwards a couple months back. Usman was a minus 350 favorite, and we seen what happened in the 5th round. Guys like, who else we got? Adesanya last week, minus 230 favorite, and we seen what happened in the 5th round again.
Yeah.
Dominic Reyes, his past 2 fights, minus 230 and minus 250. Got knocked out both times. So I think it's best to stay away from the UFC money lines, even over-unders, because in UFC, anything can happen. All it takes is one punch.
Funny thing with that UFC one, I actually lost money on that Adesanya fight. I took Adesanya for that one, and that really
That's a tough one.
Came back to haunt me.
I always scared to bet UFC because of that. It's always one strike, and you can either make big or lose it all.
100%.
That's what makes it fun, though.
It does.
All right, guys, now for this next part, something we've never seen on Rebel Report. We're just a little background. We're going to play a clip, and this is an in-division rivalry. We had the Cardinals play the Rams, and the over-under was at 38. And you could have got a live spread for the Cardinals at 11.5. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that video. We have a battle of the backup quarterbacks. All right, we're going to jump right to the 4th quarter. We see a pick. It's picked off by Budda Baker. Anytime he gets a pick, he's going to try to take it to the house. So he actually is able to take it over into Rams territory all the way down to about the 30. All right, like I said, the battle of the backup quarterbacks. I'm going to skip towards a little later on. We got the Cardinals coming up. They're trying to get that first down to try to end the game. So we see a little play action here by Colt McCoy. He's going to roll out, throw it to his tight end, and they get the first down. But very crucial right here to that over-under. You see there's a flag on the play. They're going to call illegal man downfield, and that's going to send them back. So originally this would have ended the game. The Rams would have had no more timeouts left, and they would have just run out the clock. That under would have hit, and the spread, as they're up by 14, would also hit as well. But let's see what happens. We're going to skip over. There's 14 seconds left, and Warfork's going to act like it's like game's on the line. Throws a touchdown. Horrible for those underbettors and those Cardinals spread. Rams, just kneel the ball. Right? You're down by 3 possessions. I want to ask you guys, which one was more heartbreaking, the spread not hitting or the over hitting?
Shoot.
I'd probably say the spread because that was a meaningless touchdown.
Exactly.
It was at 11.5. That's where it was at the live spread.
Right.
But like you said, it was a touchdown in the final seconds. Game was definitely not on the line. Like it was more for a pride touchdown. Like, hey, makes the score look prettier type of thing.
Yeah, you definitely didn't need to score that last touchdown. Your lead was pretty much safe at that point, and it sucks for the bettors that you could just. You didn't need to do that, especially because you're looking. And if you're a Rams fan and you took that spread, you're like, bittersweet because you won, but now you've also lost money.
No, the Rams fans hit the double loss right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I mean, at that point in the game, the overs are probably not even watching the game. They turned it off.
Yeah.
So they were happy to see that one. And we're going to end the show on one last thing right here. All right, I want you guys to pick any team. If you want to specify on a Vegas team, that'd be great. But pick a team that you would want to take bet on coming up in the near future.
So we have the Raiders playing the Denver Broncos this week. Denver's defense is very good.
Yeah.
Number one.
And Raiders are coming off probably, I would arguably say, one of the worst losses in their franchise history.
One of them, definitely one of them. Not getting shut out like they did in New Orleans, but pretty bad.
So I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to have to bet against the Raiders. Broncos, granted, they may be extremely limited on the offensive side of the ball, but I trust that defense a lot more to shut down the Raiders' offense than I do the Raiders to make any big plays on offense.
I know I said I don't usually bet over-unders, but for this one I got to bet the over for the sole fact of the Raiders' offense. It can score when it wants to. Although you're out without Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, you still got that man Devontae. You still got Mac Hollins. And the one thing that worked for the Raiders that when they played the Broncos the first time was the run game. The Broncos may have a no-fly defense. You could run right through that defense, though. So I'll take the over for the Raiders. And then also when it comes to a team that I think would be good to bet on, our ladies, our world champs, the Aces. I think they got a really good chance of repeating because they got a lot of that core group coming back. And then we still got to see what new additions they get for free agency. I'm really excited to see what they do, and I put money on it.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I'm going to say take the Raiders overs throughout the rest of the season. They have yet to have a game where they have not given up 20 or more points, and they can score themselves. Also, a great one is focusing right here on campus, our UNLV men's basketball team. Gritty team, great defensive team, right? So I take the unders on their games, great defensive team. And they like to play a lot of half-court offense, too, to slow down the clock, manage the clock time. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you, gentlemen. And we're going to pass it over to Chris.
Thanks, guys. The World Cup begins this weekend on Sunday with hosts Qatar opening up the competition against Ecuador. But Team USA has some business to tend to the next day. The United States are in Group B of the World Cup, along with England, Iran, and Wales. Team USA will play Wales Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. The last time the teams met, they drew 0-0 in Wales back on November 12th, 2020. The Americans enter the competition not on the best form following their two friendlies in September, where they lost to Japan 2-0, and they also drew with Saudi Arabia 0-0. So Team USA's keys to success, of course, lie with Christian Pulisic, aka Captain America. His creativity will be required in a squad who have struggled to identify a primary goal scorer, with only 4 of their 21 goals coming from center forwards. Regardless of the scoring issues, the team is loaded with young, exciting, and flashy players such as creative midfielders Weston McKennie, Gio Reyna, and young forwards Timothy Weir and Jesus Ferreira. So now I'm going to bring in our betting analyst here, Justin, to talk about the World Cup odds. So right now there's 5 teams. DraftKings has below plus 1,000 on the money line to win the World Cup. Brazil are at plus 400. They're the favorites, with Argentina at plus 500, France are at plus 700, and Spain and England are sitting at plus 850. And if you're feeling ambitious, the USA are at plus 13,000. So my first question to you, Justin, is as far as there's a lot of teams that aren't in that top 5 that could be considered favorites. So who are you looking at as the sleepers who could make some noise in the World Cup?
My heavy sleeper right now is going to be Portugal. They got a lot of experience, right? They got guys like Ronaldo. He's going to play his last World Cup. He's going to do everything he can to go out on a bang. We also got guys like Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes from Man United, and some young guys like João Felix that could really make some noise in their debut World Cup. So I think Portugal makes it pretty far. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think they could really mess up that bracket and take up some upsets. I believe they're at plus 1,200. Plus 1,200.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, and then as far as moving on to the favorites, I kind of mentioned the top 5 there. Who are you looking at and saying for sure you would put your money on?
Well, I'm glad you asked because the
there you go,
2022
okay.
World Cup will be going back to Brazil.
Okay.
All right, why Brazil? Well, they have a great combination of experience and young guys. All right, they have one of the most experienced back lines in the entire World Cup. They got guys like Marquinhos, Thiago Silva. They have Dani Alves, who probably won't play too much, but he'll take like a Udonis Haslem role where he's like an active player and coach. We also got guys like Alex Silva as well. They have one of the best center defensive mids in Casemiro, probably of the decade, right? And they have a very explosive and dynamic front attack. That guy is like Neymar and Vinny Jr. on the wings with the man himself, Gabriel Jesus, leading the front as the striker. All right, so I think their strengths, obviously the dribbling skills. We know Brazil, they're best with their dribbling, and they also got those. They're able to make those key passes within and inside the box to set up those key shots. Weaknesses though, they try to force passes or force some shots outside the box. That could, be detrimental.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Justin. Thanks.
One more though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because
Yeah.
who else will make some noise is
yeah,
your
that's
boys
better.
over
Yeah,
there
that's
in
good.
England. They'll also
Like
make
that.
some noise over there because why? They played a lot. They played a lot of games together, and they're coming back from 2018 World Cup where they lost in the game against Croatia. So I think they'll come back. A lot of them play in the Premier League, right? So they're already familiar with each other's play styles. It's not always about the most talented team. It's about the team who has the best chemistry on the field, and England can do that. Their strengths, they got powerful shots. All right, they have great midfield out there too. Weakness though, transitional defense. All right, that counterattack they do have to work on.
For sure. Is that all you got?
That's all I got.
All right. So
No more jerseys.
That'll do it for us on the World Cup. Back to Jade and Dom at the desk.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Justin. You came ready, but we hope that your team will come ready this World Cup as well. And now we turn it over to Wyatt Touche as he talks about how the UFC hosted a new event in New York City this past weekend.
UFC 281 was hosted in New York City at Madison Square Garden. Since the late 60s, it has been home to many of the historic moments. Ali v. Frazier, Willis Reed and the 1970 Knicks, Frank Sinatra's main event, the Rolling Stones, and so much more. All these great events have led to this moment, UFC 281. Legends were made in the maiden card, but a UFC legend also said goodbye. Frankie Edgar, who spent over 8 hours of his life fighting in the octagon, which is most in UFC history, fought his last fight in New York. Chris Gutierrez opened his goodbye party by ending Frank's final bout with a knockout on Edgar in the first round. The fight of the night, Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Iron Michael Chandler. This bloodbath of a bout appeared as if it were an old age rivalry. Both made their marks, but Poirier claimed his victory with an impressive submission in the third round. Continuing the theme of submissions, I now introduce you the new champion of the strawweight division, Zhang Weili. She took down the former champ, Carla Esparza, in dominant fashion at the end of the second round. Now the main event of the night, the middleweight title fight. Old foes with an extensive history come back and forth once more for the belt. Alex Pereira was on track to lose the fight until the fifth round when he lands an array of powerful punches that earned him the belt and the title, champion of the world for the middleweight division. However, this fight raises concern over the finish due to a controversial dispute on the referee calling the fight early. This is not the first time in UFC history, but has become more prevalent in the recent past. UFC 281 highlights an issue that is in need of review and possible change in officiating. Fights such as Jan versus O'Malley or Lewis versus Pavlovich have possible change of outcomes if correction is made. Regardless, UFC 281 was a night for the ages when it was truly a spectacle for the history books of Madison Square Garden. Back to you, Dom.
Thank you for that, Wyatt. Now we turn to Sebastian Rooney for your esports update.
Your esports update. My name is Sebastian Rooney, and I'm here to give you all you need to know about esports at UNLV and in Las Vegas. Let's start with Collegiate Rocket League. League play ended this past week, and your UNLV Gaming Rebels finished atop the leaderboards with a perfect 15-0 record. With the Western Conference playoffs right around the corner, the Gaming Rebels look to make history by becoming the first truly undefeated team in Collegiate Rocket League history. We wish for good luck on the players and hope they are able to pull off what only the 1972 Miami Dolphins have been able to do. Next up, the HyperX Arena, the esports arena located at the Luxor, is hosting UNLV's first ever Spike Rush Valorant tournament, College Night Rebel Rush. The event takes place on November 20th at HyperX Arena from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. So if you are interested in playing in the tournament or just attending, be sure to check out the Rebel Gaming Discord for more information and to RSVP. And that's it. My name is Sebastian Rooney, and this has been your Vegas Esports Update.
Thanks, Sebastian. Now, last week was Veterans Day, so this week our community spotlight spotlights a highlight of a local who is now aiming for a profit to support our veterans.
The Klein Veterans Fund provides emergency housing assistance and other support to homeless and at-risk veterans and their families in southern Nevada. They believe that every American who has risked his or her life to protect our country deserves a place to call home. Last week, the Klein Veterans Fund hosted their 4th annual Salute to Veterans Golf Tournament, benefiting veterans in need in southern Nevada. This tournament brought together people around 2 pillars: giving back to the veterans community and practicing their love for golf. Over 100 participants came out to Angel Park Golf Club to honor and support local heroes. Together, they raised $52,000 to support programs and services for vulnerable veterans here in the Valley. Among their supporters, Tito's Vodka, the Raiders Foundation, Vegas Golden Knights, American First Credit Union, and the Purple Heart Foundation, as well as dozens of local players and volunteers with a heart to give back. All the proceeds from this event will be used to assist local veterans in need of housing assistance and supportive services, especially as the holiday season approaches. For Rebel Report, I'm Marie Squires.
All women and men for their service, keeping us all safe and at peace. We wanted to give a special mention to one of our members here at Rebel Report, who is also a veteran, Chris Clark. Chris, thank you for your service.
And that will do it for this episode of the Rebel Report. Thank you all for watching.
Make sure to follow us on our socials to stay up to date on all our latest content. See you next time.